On Wednesday we're going to be collecting our first set of data for our own experiments. And there's some things that you want to remember when collecting data. First one is, when you collect data, however you might collect it, you want to stay consistent. So whatever you do one day, you want to make sure that you do that same thing each day after. Also, make sure you avoid bias. So if you have to set an order or when you are going to collect something, a good idea or a good strategy to get into is to randomize when and what you're going to do. So if you collect, or if you say you want to collect certain data first and then certain data last, you might have unconsciously set a bias towards a certain area or a certain way of collecting data. So one way to eliminate that is to randomize it using a dice or pulling numbers out of a hat or something like that. Alright, just to recap, last week on Friday we went outside and we explored a little bit and developed our own questions to why do we think that we're seeing what we're seeing. And you guys picked a question together as a group, and then based on your question you're then going to make a statement, a hypothesis to why you think that's occurring, a testable statement. Once you should have developed your hypothesis by now. Once you develop that, you need to make your predictions. And your predictions are your if-then statements, and those are there to help you develop and set up what you're actually going to be testing. So you have a hypothesis to explain why you think you're seeing it, and then you have predictions. If I see this, then we should see this. Or if this is occurring, then this should be occurring. Or if this is occurring, then this shouldn't be occurring. So those predictions will then help you set up your experiment to what it is you're actually going to be testing. And when you do your experiment, there are a couple things to remember about collecting data. First, you want to be consistent. That is the most important. Whatever you do one day, make sure you're doing the next. All right? Stay consistent in how you're collecting your data and whatever measurements you're taking. Just make sure you stay consistent. And another one, avoid bias. So you don't want to get yourself into a situation where you're favoring one sample or one subject or one study area or one measuring area over another. And that's what a bias is having a favor towards one thing or another. So one way to avoid bias is to randomize where you're going to be testing or what it is you're going to be testing in what order. One way to randomize, you could put numbers in a hat, draw them out, which one you'll be testing first, second, last, and so on. Or you could use a dice, roll a dice. You know, what number am I going to go first, second, third, so on. So those are just some things to remember for Wednesday when we start collecting our first set of data.